I think in high school, we really focused on that like middle group of kids, right? They're those BC kind of students, and they should be college bound. But it's very easy in high school with all the choice to take the path of least resistance and to not do hard things like they're doing at Franktown, right? And so they just go with their buddies to take the easiest classes to kind of just get by, and then they become a senior and go, I want to go to college. And we know they go to college, and a lot of times they fail out because they haven't built those skills. So the challenge of AVID is like, we want you to take challenging classes, and then if you don't have those skills built up yet, we do have an AVID elective class, much like the middle school, where we work on all those same kind of things: college exploration, getting organized, learning some basic skills, and those could be really powerful. So if we can bring that middle group up to where they're confident, that changes the whole school culture.
AVID, or Advancement via Individual Determination, is a highly regarded program which has been used in schools all over the U.S. for 45 years. And in one unique feeder system in DCSD, it's possible for students to learn AVID-based skills at Franktown Elementary, then move up to Sagewood Middle School, followed by Ponderosa High School, both of which have AVID elective classes, and throughout their school career, continue learning and using AVID educational tools. I'm DCSD Communication Director Jason Hackett, and I recently got to sit down with the principals from all three of those schools to hear more about how AVID makes a difference for all ages of students, plus parents, teachers, and principals building an identity for their schools. These school leaders are helping pave the way to success for students with all kinds of learning styles and abilities. This whole conversation carries the core message of empowerment to unlock every student's greatness. This is the second of 3 parts of the DCSD Notebook Podcast miniseries focusing on the AVID program, which is used at several schools in Douglas County. The previous episode focused on the core aspects of the program and its implementation at the district level. This one is at the school level, and our next episode will have DCSD graduates talking about their experiences at the individual level and how AVID prepared them for the real world. To learn more about AVID, check out the show notes, or just keep listening, because here we go with part 2 of our mini-series. We're here with a group of principals that cover the gamut from elementary school, middle school, and high school, and they're all part of the same feeder system, which is a really cool thing to be able to pull this together. First time we've done this on our podcast. So first, thank you all for being here to help us out with educating all of us a little bit more about AVID. What we try to do a lot of times when we start these podcasts is get to know you just a little bit. Let's go around the table here real quick. We're at Ponderosa High School in a conference room, and it's so cool, first of all, to get out on the road for this thing and get to be where the action is. What I'd like to do is kind of go around the table and have you introduce yourselves and tell us your title. That way we get names and voices familiar for all the listeners. And we try to do a little bit of a little icebreaker kickoff type of a question just to get to know you a little bit. What I'll ask each of you is, as after you introduce yourselves, tell us one of your pet peeves. And for principals, I'm sure there's not a lot there, right?
Might be a few.
Yeah.
All right. Chandra Baca. I am the principal at Franktown Elementary School in Ponderosa Feeder. And this is my first year as principal. I have been at Franktown, though this is my 14th year at Franktown. So we have been an AVID elementary school. We're going on year 3. One of my biggest pet peeves. Oh, that's a good one. I'm kind of put on the spot here. I think it's when people drive too slow, because I'm always having to get somewhere.
Right. And then there's always somebody in the wrong lane.
Yes.
And just, you can't get around them. And you're like,
It's kind of tied to AVID. Like, I drive with urgency, but I follow the rules.
there you go. Exactly.
I like that.
Get everybody on the same page, going literally.
Get to where we need to go here.
That's great.
I'm Sarah Hassler. I'm the interim principal at Sagewood. This is my first year there. And this is my 23rd year in Douglas County and my 3rd time serving in this feeder. So it's really special to be in the Pondo feeder. My pet peeve is when people are on my tail when I'm driving.
Wasn't me.
In fact, I was talking to my staff about it because this road here by Ponderosa, every morning I'm kind of relaxing, driving along, and someone's always on my tail. And the other morning I pulled into the parking lot and it was one of my staff members. So
They're like, all right, make a mental note of what her car looks like.
yeah, I saw him park way over on the other side of the parking lot. It's like 6:20 in the morning.
Nice. Well, I'm Ryan Hollingshead. I'm the principal here at Ponderosa High School. This is my 4th year at Ponderosa and my 26th year in Douglas County, and I was even a student here growing up. So I've been here my whole life. Think about pet peeves. You know, I work with high school kids, and so it's really when people complain about high school kids, like they forget what it was like to be 14, 15, because those kids are doing the same things they were doing 30 years ago. So, we get in a conversation with other adults that don't have kids anymore, in school, like these kids these days, like they're the same. The kids are the same. They've always been.
Exactly. Kids these days has been a phrase forever.
Right.
And somehow once we become adults, we forget that we were there and we did all kinds of stupid things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're learning.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the whole process of you're not equipped, so you have to learn and try things and see what works and doesn't work. So yeah, everybody chill out and give these high schoolers and middle schoolers and elementary kids a little bit of a break, right? All right. So speaking of AVID, this is part 2 in our series. We had a podcast episode with Gordon Mosier to kind of get that 10,000 foot view from the district level. And as somebody who actually used to work for AVID, so he knows that program inside and out. But we wanted to get the perspective of principals, boots on the ground in the schools at all levels to see what that looks like so that people can kind of understand what that is. So I guess as we started with Chandra at the elementary level, let's start with you talking about what does AVID look like at the elementary level?
Yeah, so, AVID's been really near and dear to my heart when we started, just to see how it kind of brought alignment and focus with the work that we were already doing, but bringing it to the forefront of what we really saw kids needed. And I think all kids need it. We needed it 20 years ago. We need it today. But it's really kind of a boost in that executive functioning piece and life skills. And it's really a mindset more than anything, a growth mindset, acceleration via individual determination at the elementary level. You'll hear a lot moving up through my own hard work. And you can do hard things. I think kids are probably sick of hearing that, but really developing those essential skills through organization, through ability to, take ownership of their learning and to be able to be organized not only in their materials, but in their thought processes and how to collaborate well with others and, just really taking ownership of their process. And that's really done through a lot of modeling at the elementary level and a lot of practice. So it's really giving time and space to those specific things through the content and through the standards that we're doing every day. So when we adopted AVID as a framework, it really just naturally was, as a school, we just jumped right in. And I think it's really helped our kids to take that ownership and really know that, what they give is a big factor in their pathway. And also we're there to support them in the process. But really for us, it's trying to build really good habits for kids as they move on and they shift into middle school and into high school and then going into their post-secondary, whether that be college or career. But these are skills they're going to need for life. And so it's really just really fostering that growth mindset within kids at the elementary level. So it's been a great journey for us. We're still relatively new with the framework, so we're always learning. But it's awesome to have this feeder connection because we've had such good conversations already. And just to see over time, okay, what is this doing for our kids within our feeder and how is it helping to support them to become as independent and as successful as possible?
And it's never too early to start with.
Absolutely not. No, 5-year-olds can do hard things.
That's right.
They can be independent. They can dress themselves. I mean, it's all those things that can start from an early age. And we have 5-year-olds, they use interactive notebooks. When you give them opportunities, they rise to the occasion. So yeah, never too young.
So then, Sarah, what does it look like at the middle school level?
In middle school is such a big leap for students to go from being with that same teacher most of the day. Now they're in middle school. They have 8 class periods to juggle. And AVID really helps empower our students to have the strategies they need to navigate that. For our 6th graders, so every grade in middle school has a different focus. So in 6th grade, Every student has AVID for one semester, and the focus is really looking at those organizational skills, how to manage their planner, how to organize their backpack, and then exposing them to different strategies, AVID strategies that they then see in their core classes. So throughout the whole school, we're implementing those strategies as well. In 7th grade, we really start to look at college and career pathways. So middle school is just that really exciting time for kids to try out all their different electives and activities and clubs, athletics, and start to kind of imagine what life might be like for them in the future as they're experiencing these things in the present. And then once they get to 8th grade, it's also an elective for students. They really start to take all of that college and career exploration in 7th grade and start to plan out, what is high school going to look like? How am I going to really leverage the opportunities Douglas County has to offer with all of the different pathways that Ponderosa has access to? And so they just start to explore that. They go on college visits, field trips. And then in middle school, we also have AVID school-wide. So like I said earlier, they have AVID strategies in all of their classes. Then we also have different events. We have College Mondays. We have announcements where staff members share about their college, and then students can kind of explore they try to figure out which college you're describing, or you give a little hint, like a kind of a scavenger hunt or a clue. Different people have do it different ways, but then students try to figure out the clue and find you and get a reward for that. We just had our PD day where we talked about AVID school-wide, and one of the things that we did was each content area identified different AVID strategies that they feel fit with their content best, if that makes sense. And so, for example, science identified certain ones that would align best to a science lab or the type of work that they do. Social studies looked at strategies that align to current events. And so whatever the students are getting in that elective, it's being reinforced throughout their day.
So it's really throughout the entire school experience for them.
Yes, that is our goal. And we want to kind of bolster the excitement around AVID. That's kind of our next step as a school, is just how do you see it when you walk in? Can you feel and hear and see AVID, and getting that excitement going a little bit more.
So at the middle school level, having kids that have come from Franktown that are already introduced to the concepts of AVID, are they able to, how does that work? I won't lead the question there. Just how does that work for them?
Yeah, so they come into Sagewood already with some of those strategies all of the strategies that they've learned. And so they see that continuity when they go to their 6th grade elective. Every student takes it, whether they had AVID in elementary school or not. They're in that elective, but our students who have been in it, these are familiar strategies to them. So they're really set up for success. And like I said earlier, they see those strategies in all of their classes. So it gives them an advantage because the way in which we teach and leverage those strategies in our classes are familiar to them right from the start. And so that's exciting. They have the familiarity, the excitement around AVID to then in 7th and 8th grade be open to taking it as an elective for them. And they see the benefit of it and they enjoy it.
Do they end up also leading and helping along the other kids that may not have been introduced to it, that are coming from other schools, and shepherding them?
Yeah, they bring a confidence, I would say. So when they get their AVID notebooks and the organizational strategies, they really can become more role models for the other students because they have they're coming with that background and knowledge and experience.
Ryan, at the high school level then, what does that look like as kids have come through and been exposed to this and have learned a lot of the concepts? Then what kinds of things do they get to do in high school that takes that forward?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're going to really start seeing this pay off in a few years. Right now, our current high school kids, there may be some that took the AVID elective, but it really wasn't school-wide at the middle school yet. So those kids come in, they certainly have some skills that other kids don't have. But I think there are a couple ways to look at it in high school. We talk about school-wide AVID. It's a great framework for our school, for our professional development, for teachers to think about good strategies in the classroom. And so if we're really being thorough with implementing those strategies, a lot of those will be things that they saw in middle school, or they saw in elementary. So they walk in and, we're going to ask them to take notes a certain way and do something with those notes. They've already done that before. It's not like we're reteaching some of those basic skills. And, when I got the job 4 years ago, when we were coming out of COVID, a lot of the complaint about students was that they were apathetic towards learning. They were giving up easily. And so we talked a lot about, why is that? And one of the things about AVID is it's removing barriers for kids. And if one of the barriers is I really don't know how to get organized and to learn, I give up really quick, especially in ninth grade when it's really tough and it's a big transition that we start to lose kids. So if they already have some built-in strategies coming up the ranks and then they show up to ninth grade, and I've heard those terms before, I know how to do this before, that's going to give them so much more confidence coming in. So I think a lot of the high school has been about attacking that side. I think if you ask our general kids school-wide, if they know what AVID is, they don't necessarily know unless they did it at middle school, but our teachers know, and our teachers are doing some common things. So that part's exciting. And then the other side is, I think in high school, we've really focused on that like middle group of kids, right? They're those BC kind of students, and they should be college bound, but it's very easy in high school with all the choice to take the path of least resistance and to not do hard things like they're doing at Franktown, right? And so they just go with their buddies to take the easiest classes to kind of just get by. And then they become a senior and go, I want to go to college. And we know they go to college and a lot of times they fail out because they haven't built those skills. So the challenge of AVID is like, we want you to take challenging classes. And then if you don't have those skills built up yet, we do have an AVID elective class, much like the middle school, where we work on all those same kind of things, college exploration, getting organized, learning some basic skills. And those could be really powerful. So if we can bring that middle group up to where they're confident, that changes the whole school culture.
That was something that as I was wrapping up the interview with Gordon Mosier for kind of the part one of this, I was packing up all my gear and we kept talking. I was trying to honor his schedule and get out of there and get out of his hair. But we were talking as I was packing up all the podcast gear. And one of the things he said was that there's such a high percentage of kids that those that go through AVID and have learned how to organize themselves, the Wickhor model, and learn all of that, such a high percentage of them that when they go on to college, finish college. It's not just about, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my best or whatever. Colleges keep track of that 4 and 6 year completion rate. And a lot of kids drop off. But what Gordon was telling me was that a super high percentage finish college because they know how to do it and they are good at challenging themselves and understand. And if those that have come all the way up from elementary school knowing I've got the ability to do this and I can do hard things all the way through college, it's amazing to hear that. So that rigor and the preparation that you guys are being able to give them at this point kind of gives those kids going into college a real leg up then. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when AVID started, it was kind of in more, maybe inner city schools or parents weren't college educated. And so there was a sense of building up confidence in kids. But I would argue that a lot of our middle group of kids, they had good support and good foundations coming up. So they're always going to score okay and they can get into college and there's parent support to get them there. But yeah, if they don't know how to learn and are confident in themselves to do hard things and figure it out, then they're not going to be successful. So if we can change that culture, it's gonna be a game changer for everybody.
Absolutely. Hearing about all of this from you three and from my earlier conversation, I'm just like, I wish everybody had the opportunity to do this. What does it take to get your staff ready to be able to do this? What kinds of training do they have to go through to, I guess you've got training you've got to go to, and then there's staff training. So whoever wants to jump in on that, how does that work?
I can jump in from where we started. So when we decided, it was interesting before we even went to Summer Institute, which is really one of the best probably trainings I've been to in my 21 years of education. And it was hosted in Denver that summer, so 2 summers ago. Even before we jumped in, because once you commit to that, it's a cost to kind of start. We had half our staff trained, 3, 4, 5, all of our specialists. It was a 3-day event, just really high rigorous PD and in all areas of education. So whether you were, an ELD teacher, a classroom teacher, an admin, very differentiated. But even before we did that, and I think that Sarah and I can speak to their teachers attending as well, we actually went to Denver and visited Park Hill Elementary School, which has been an AVID elementary school for, now probably 13, 14 years. And we're just able to meet with their site team, because every team or every school has a site team for AVID. And they really gave us that high level overview of what AVID Elementary looks like, because AVID Elementary only kind of came into being maybe even 10 years ago. Don't quote me on that number, but I think it's around there. But just to kind of go into classrooms to see. And I think what resonated with teachers was, oh, yeah, we do a lot of these collaborative structures, or we do some kind of note taking, but it's not like, for us, it just wasn't aligned. So it was a lot of, it's not a more what, it's a better how. And for us, it was taking best practice that we knew we had a lot of pockets of, and then coming together and really looking for alignment within our grade levels, but then also within our vertical grade levels, K-5. So once we saw that and we thought, oh, this doesn't seem overwhelming, and this kind of seems like almost like common sense. I don't even know how to explain that of, oh yeah, like we can put some structures to this and have it be, just increase that level of accountability for kids too. And that alignment was huge for us that first year that we really focused on. So going to training, we took about half our staff. We decided to focus on 3, 4, 5 to kind of the first year of implementation. And then we took that information and were able to do some in-house PD to kind of support and align starting in K2. It does look different, but we were able to do that and then offer the next year, working with Gordon and Danny. They've been super supportive in allowing, even funding and opportunities for us to get more and more staff trained. I would say right now, with the minimal turnover we had even from 2 years ago and even from last year, we're probably 90% trained staff-wise. Yeah, and it really is supported through AVID as an institute, but also within, like, we've had in-house through Douglas County where it's a little less expensive, where we can bring AVID trainers in. We just went to an admin AVID training with AVID trainers, and that was really great. I was able to go with my assistant principal. So there's definitely opportunities. There's a ton of online resources. When you're an AVID school, you have access to avid.org, which has embedded PD throughout that supports your PD within your school throughout the year. So there's a lot of different resources, but starting out, it's kind of getting on board. And the Summer Institute really increases excitement with your staff. And they really took ownership of it when we were trained and came in. We're like, this is good. This is good for kids. We're going to do this. And so very supported by the district, though. And the PD's there. So you just kind of have to get on board and make a commitment.
Does it help too, especially at the elementary level? You've got a lot of collaboration from grade level to grade level when they're passing kids on, at the end of one school year going into the next. Does that help with that transition as well?
Yes, that's huge. Especially in, as kids are developing, what we find using common language is great for kids, especially as they're developing in their emerging years, of not causing confusion. So even like the simple thing of color coding, alignment across grades. Why every year do we have to remember, oh, now blue is math? I mean, it's a simple concept, but really if you're aligned K-5, every year it's the same thing. Or, I know how to take 2 column notes. We did that last year. Or, I can do a Freyer model because they're using the same language and the same process. So you don't have to reteach structures that they're doing year to year to year. So it's taking a lot of that extra work out for teachers and for kids with the alignment piece, which I think we saw a huge shift the first 2 years for sure.
To just have that common language, it saves time, and then they can move on to all the other things that they need to learn.
Yeah, spend more time in their process, not in that surface level stuff that they have to relearn every year, just calling it something different.
Sure. So then what does training and staff preparation look like at the secondary level then?
For middle school, I'm new to AVID this year, and I just want to piggyback on what Chandra was talking about, that it's good teaching. And when teachers see what it is, it aligns with what they've always been doing, and it just brings that clarity throughout our school. And one of the things in middle school, oftentimes with professional development, teachers want specific professional development for their content area, and AVID provides that. And it's so nice for the math teachers to have math-specific AVID training. And I think that really enhances or contributes to the commitment of teachers. It's good teaching. It gives alignment and names, brings clarity to things they've always done, and just kind of shores it up really as a school. So kids are experiencing it in a similar way from class to class. They don't have to go to this class and now we take notes this way. Oh, now we do this another way. It really raises our awareness of what it's like for a student to go to 8 different class periods and experience the same thing in each one in terms of those systems and structure. So it's the intentionality of equipping them with those tools and then using those to help make that instruction more effective. It's evidence-based teaching, which I think our teachers love. So it's not a new thing. It doesn't feel like a new thing. It just gives name, clarity, and alignment to what we are doing. And that empowers our students. So it's intentionally equipping them with what they need. So in terms of the professional development, I know that our teachers have been on this journey for a while, and they've been to a lot of the AVID training. At our last PD day, they requested that we lead the training. And so the experts within our building led the last PD day, and we really looked at AVID strategies and rigor in the content areas. And then that work is really going to drive our feedback to teachers when we do classroom walkthroughs. You know, we will have in front of us, these are the rigorous instructional AVID strategies that they named for their content. We now walking in are looking for those strategies, and we can say, oh, we saw that. Love the way that worked. Or, you know, it gives us alignment now in our feedback to teachers. So it's not just their professional development, but then it's feedback on how is it going? What do we need to tweak or change? Our next step is going to be bringing our department chairs in on those walkthroughs. So then they can see other people in their department using those same AVID strategies. We're excited. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be at an AVID school because oftentimes at middle schools, in my experience, there's a lot of, I don't want to say fragmented professional development, but you're doing something different for this department or that department. It's so nice to have just one common tool that we're all using. So,
yeah, because at middle school, you've got that transition period for the kids. They're going from being in the same classroom with the same kids all the time to now they're going passing period and the whole kind of thing.
Right.
And learning how to make that transition that really is the end goal is high school and really getting to have that variety of classes that they get to choose from, but still having in AVID, having some common language and common sets of tools that it's almost, is it kind of reassuring a little bit for students and maybe parents too, to like, okay, I understand how this works and I don't have to worry about that as much because it's going to be consistent from class to class. Mm-hmm. And we can focus more on the content then, I guess. Is that?
I like the word reassuring. I think of confidence. It empowers them with confidence. When they sit down, they don't have to wonder what's coming next or I've never done this before. And like I said, in the very beginning in 6th grade, just how to organize the planner or take notes, all those skills that we think kids will just pick up on, they need to be intentionally taught. And if they're not, it all will fall apart. And so in middle school, it's really nice to have that alignment, give that reassurance, give that confidence to kids that they can do it. And then I think the other part of AVID is that school-wide, get everyone getting a picture of who they can become and have them already thinking about options that are out there for their future to see it through.
I feel like this is a little bit of a side note, but from what you were talking about, it sounds like you really get kids at your middle school thinking, like dreaming about what they can become. Is that a fair thing to say?
That's our goal. Yeah. So when you were talking earlier about high schoolers leaving high school, going to college and not finishing, I think what's so cool about AVID is they're already picturing finishing because they are interviewing adults about their careers. They're interviewing them about what college did you pick? Why did you pick that? Are you proud of who you've become? And it's in middle school, it's not committing to what you're going to do. It's getting them thinking about it and just trying on different ideas, which is really the heart of middle school in general, right? Maybe this year you're trying out theater and next year you're going to play volleyball It's kind of, I always think middle school is kind of like a dressing room. You try it on. If it fits, you wear it. If it doesn't fit, I tried that. But it's a fun time for our students in middle school because for a lot of them, this is the first time they've gone to a school with all of these things. Just going to a large public middle school is just a great opportunity for kids at this age because the variety of options, friends, et cetera, is there. And AVID really allows them to start being intentional about how they want to explore those things, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's more of the inquiry part of their learning how to go about that inquiry and talking about what they need to do going forward. This is fascinating.
Absolutely.
Wow. All right. So at the high school level, what does that training and preparation look like?
Yeah, I think Sarah hit it at the end there, what our elective classes really are. So our elective teachers at middle school and high school have to go to training because you're coming up with content for every single class, but AVID provides that. It's really there's almost too much content that they provide for our teachers to get through, but it is on that exploration. And they start dreaming it up in middle school, and then we're driving them to college campuses and high school on our field trips for AVID, right? And we're talking to admissions reps and what does this look like? So they're getting that whole side of things along with the daily executive functioning skills and still learning how to be prepared and be successful in school. So that part's pretty organized and easy to see as a high school principal. The school-wide training, that's a different animal. So these guys get me fired up because their staff gets so excited. High school teachers are sometimes reluctant. Sometimes I feel like I have 80 independent contractors because high school teachers are content area experts and they take a lot of pride in what they do in their rooms. And if they've been successful for a long time, anytime you roll out a new initiative or new school-wide something, there's kind of that, like, why do we need this? And so I think we had to build a foundation of, what's our concerns at school? What are we doing that isn't working? And one of those things that Sarah brought up is you go to 7 different bosses every day and they have 7 different ways of doing things and routines. And so if we can break down those barriers for kids and get rid of some of those differences, that builds a lot of confidence. So that has been the why for our teachers, and they've bought into that. And so we're probably about 50% that have gone to official training. We try to get another 10 to 15 teachers every year to training, and certain departments are seeing more value in it than others. There's a little more application, but we are definitely moving the needle. And so that's been a really positive thing for us.
It's also interesting to hear, Chandra, you saying the how and you saying the why, Ryan, and we've all kind of heard a little bit about the what. This is a 45-year-old program, and it's been successful all across the country, all across the world. And now seeing that you can attack it from all these different ways and see how it works.
When I got the principal job, it's kind of overwhelming when you finally get the principal job to go, what am I all about? We have a million different initiatives and programs at our school, and how do they align? So for me, just looking at the AVID framework, and there's the triangle and all the things what kids need and what teachers do, but then you could look at all your programs and say, do they fit into this model? And for me, it just made sense, and it made sense to our leadership team and then to our staff. To now we can really filter everything through that. So if nothing else, even if we don't fully implement AVID, the framework is a common language for all of us.
Sure. Again, as we're talking the transition piece, and we touched on it a little bit before too, being able to hand off those kids into colleges or careers, and they're equipped in a whole additional way than they would have been without this, right? And they're ready to go and dive in, and they don't have to worry so much about learning the skills of saying, I don't know how to do this. They know how to admit that and seek the help and seek to understand things. And how does that handoff work? Have you seen some of that so far?
Yeah, I think we see all the time where that kid who was kind of an average student, but was willing to figure things out and not be afraid of failure and just, had some built-in skills. They're the ones who go out and do amazing things when you talk to them 10, 15 years down the road. And this is even, students that weren't in AVID, just from my past. Those are the kids that are doing really neat stuff. And there were kids that were, AP everything and 4.0s, but they didn't really know how to handle that. And they were very good at doing the game of school, but the other skills they just never really mastered. And so hopefully we can build that well-rounded kid by going through this program.
And the skills I just keep coming back to, I know it's only a fraction of the entire program, but learning how to take notes. And you've all kind of talked about that at different levels. Can we talk a little bit about that just from the standpoint of everybody that's been to school, every parent that hears about this knows what it's like to have to take notes. And if you haven't learned how to take notes, my own daughter made fun of me for looking at the way I take notes at work. And it's just chicken scratch, and it's not even aligned, and it doesn't make sense. And there's partial words there and diagrams that make no sense. And so I think of that as almost a detriment that I never learned how to take notes this in all the different ways. Can you, any of you, talk a little bit about that side of it, just that organization piece and how that makes a difference for kids?
Well, I can start just from the elementary level. I will tell you, our first year, we focused heavily on organization through focused note taking. And, the note taking in itself is kind of the product. It's really around the organization of their thinking processes. At the elementary level, it's modeled, it's practiced a lot so they can feel proficient, but it's not just something they do and then let go. They use it as a learning tool. So interesting story. I think when after the first semester, our fifth graders were becoming more proficient at math note taking, really having a system, having a table of contents, being able to get to that resource quickly if they had to remind themselves of a strategy, maybe in working with fractions. So there's a method to it, right? And we can use it as a tool. It's something that we can use as a resource. And I think their first unit test, the teacher asked, okay, you can get your notes out and you can use your notes on the test. This one kid was like, man, I should have taken notes. I should have taken better notes. That kid, that second unit, he had them down. He was ready to go because it's a resource. It's a tool. And if you're putting in the work, and using it as a resource, use that as a tool. So again, I think it's learning the process, learning how to organize, but giving them the time and space at elementary to really practice that, to become proficient in that, and then to go off to middle and high school and kind of gear towards what is working for them as a learner. Cornell notes, for some, that's a really structured way of taking notes and it works for their brain. For others, it might not. Maybe it's a simple 3-column. But it's giving them the time and space to kind of know what works for their brain to be able to then apply as they get older. All of the things they're having to navigate, especially from 5th to 6th grade. I mean, that's a huge jump when you're, used to having the same teacher or minimal transitions throughout the day to now, having to manage 7, 8 classes. And I mean, it's a big jump. And we know that. We want to prepare kids for that. So I think from that standpoint, it's, again, really modeling, really giving them the time and space to practice, but to have it be purposeful, not just for the sake of taking notes, but what am I using my notes for, So I think that's kind of where we start with the focused note taking process, K-5.
Anything else from the secondary level? To Chandra's point, not just taking notes, but organizing their thinking and understanding how to kind of take control of their learning. And to your point earlier, Ryan, not just kind of doing school because I'm doing school and then it's here and gone kind of a thing.
We talk about the curve of forgetting a lot. If you don't revisit something within a week, almost everything you learned is gone, right? So, but if you reinforce something within 15 minutes, within an hour, within 24 hours, then the learning sticks. So we've really talked to teachers about, when we say focused note taking, it's not necessarily just how you take notes in class. What are you doing with those notes? Are you summarizing them? Are they able to use them on the next assignment? It's shocking to me when you walk in even to a math class where those are very typical notes, like here's how to do a problem. Kids are presented with problems and don't know they have the instructions in their own notes a foot away from the assignment. They forget it's even there. So it's like, how did you, go back to it enough times to get them to do something with it to make it useful? So again, it's just good teaching strategies that we all kind of know, but we just don't sometimes spend the time to be purposeful and slowing down in our lessons to make sure that we're getting that little piece in.
I love that. Purposeful. That's a great word for all of this. It sounds like to see that there's an entire feeder system, well, not an entire feeder system, but parts of an entire feeder system, that you've got elementary to middle to high school with that continuity and that purposefulness. That is amazing. And what a great advantage for those students that get to do that. Wow. All right. I don't know that we have a ton of time because these are principals that have a lot to do. And we're taking part of their Friday as we're recording this. One last question. Do you have either an example of some students where it really, really made a difference and can help parents and students understand oh, okay, that's a real world example?
I can talk a little bit about that. One of my favorite parts of this whole school year so far was when the AVID students had me come in to be interviewed about my pathway. And I was so impressed with their questions. So they had crafted all of the questions for me, very specific about the colleges I chose, did I dream of being a principal? How did I know I would be one? The path it took to get there. And throughout the whole interview, they were so focused on their note taking and they were wanting to know about the college and how to spell it. And I didn't realize this was a lesson for them, not only on hearing my journey, but on how to take notes. And they were practicing their notes. And then a few weeks later, we were hosting the Parker Regional Principals. And I thought, wow, that would be a really cool connect for all the principals. So I brought the AVID students, I worked with them and kind of talked to them about leading that same interview process with a group of principals. And so I had 8 of our AVID students come in and lead that. And watching their facilitation of that, their ability to be leaders, their ability to ask those meaningful questions. And the principals were completely engaged in that. And then they led the principals on a tour of classroom walkthroughs looking for AVID strategies. And I think their favorite part of the day was they got to have the breakfast that the principals had. They really enjoyed it, though. And what came out of it was just the way they walk around, the way they greet me. They're so proud that they did that. And they loved it. And I really think it was just a great kind of culmination of all of the different aspects of AVID. If you think about it, right? They came up with the interview. They hosted the small groups of principals. They took them on the tour. They answered questions about our school and were really great, just great representatives of Sagewood. And I think for me, what I would love to see, and I do see in our students who are in the AVID elective, but all of our students, is AVID is a great tool to develop leadership. And I think when you put it all together, that's really where it lands. It was really fun.
That's all you would hope for kids to like gain that confidence, learn what they need to do, and then become leaders along with it. How about you guys? Examples that you have?
We in the high school elective class, we have 20 kids in each grade. They're in the elective class. And in order to be in there, you're required to take an honors or AP course. You can't just take the regular track. And part of that is we want them to have something they're going to struggle with so they can actually apply all these things they're learning in there. And so our juniors now have been in AVID for 3 years, and all of them are taking some kind of really challenging class, and they are excelling. And the teachers, the AP teachers will come in and say, we know you're an AVID kid because we see how you approach the work. We see how you take your notes. We see how you study. And the other kids in class go to them now as resources to like, how do I do this better? So, and these were kids who probably were not in that upper academic group coming into high school, and now they're in the club, right? And they have confidence being in that challenging group. So it's really neat to see.
That's great. Again, exactly what you hope for everybody. Wow.
Yeah. So at the elementary level, one thing we implemented last year, and we're trying to be a little bit more aligned this year, is we have AVID showcase walls in each grade level. And it's a growing practice of what could this look like, but it's a place and a space for kids to kind of share some of their AVID mindset strategies that they're using to share learning, and they can showcase like that hard work that they're persevering through, they're going through, and it's a sense of pride for them. So it also, like, we did student interviews last year on each grade level. What are you most proud of as an AVID student? And they really connect with that ownership of their learning. And it's fun to see that at 5 years old. It's fun to see it at 10 years old. And, they know if something's hard, we're not going to rescue, right? We're going to engage them in productive struggle. We're going to say, try it first. And then they have steps that they know, okay, yeah, I can try this first. And then I know what to do next. It's not a complete shutdown. And that's a great thing to see at that span from 5 to 10, to really able to see them engaging in more complex tasks and having the grit and the perseverance to get started. And I think that's a big shift that we've seen the last couple of years, is that grit piece of, and it's okay to fail forward. And that mindset that's where you're going to get the most growth, and that's where you're going to take that ownership piece. So, just seeing those little nuances day in and day out, but just to see how proud they are when they do work through a hard task, and that, hey, look, and even if it didn't end in this great product, or that you attempted, you tried, and you knew that you could put the hard work into it, and then we can talk about it after. So I just think that mindset is so huge in those, first years of schooling, especially, it goes by fast. Man, I know even as a mom myself, they're 5 one day and then all of a sudden they're jumping into high school. So and that's another piece too, is the family engagement. I think we're really trying to build more of that, of just aligned expectations with that too, of really don't do for your children what they can do for themselves. And we really want, for kids at this level to grow in that independent factor. And they have wonderful skills. They're coming to us with that, but we're just trying to continue to build and engage kids in those processes. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, just equipping them with a full toolkit of skills and abilities and characteristics that they can take forward and really succeed. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for all of the hard work, because I can't imagine how hard it is to, especially like what you were saying, Ryan, like getting everybody on board and then figuring out ways, because you've got turnover from year to year and different people coming in, and how do we integrate everybody back in and get them trained up and ready to go? It's a lot that's on your shoulders, but this continuity that is helping kids from kindergarten all the way to being seniors in this feeder system, this is amazing. Thank you for all the work that you've done, and thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the DCSD Notebook Podcast and the second of our 3-part mini-series on the AVID program. Be sure to check out the next episode, which will feature DCSD graduates who will give first-person examples of how participating in AVID at Legend High School raised their level of scholarship and set them on paths of success they don't think they would have walked without what they learned. To make sure you don't miss that episode or any others, hit the follow button in your favorite podcast app. And if you find this podcast useful, do us a favor and tell someone about it, especially anyone who wants to know about the quality of schools and programs here in Douglas County School District. Again, thanks for listening. Oh, and hang on for a blooper where yours truly makes a mistake that got us all laughing. The interrogation piece, right, of this. Is that what the I stands for?
Inquiry.
Inquiry, sorry.
Same thing.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to cut that part out.
I was like, wait,
You guys know, yeah. Interrogation.
It's like a Dateline word.
that was good.
That's when they come into the principal's office for a whole other reason. Yeah.
That's funny.